Honest as Hell, a Men of Metal podcast. I'm your host, Kip Brooks. Welcome back to the show. So, uh, Today we're going to kind of breeze through a couple of different little things here that are on my mind. Since the inception of this business, there has been debates of um, quality level of work, pricing the job, percentages, which we went into percentages on the last episode. Um, and so many things, any little piece of this business, there are opposing sides of it. And people arguing about how everyone else should do it to the point of it is broken out in fist fights many times. I remember several years ago, there were two rather well-known brokers in the industry that got in a, for lack of a better word, fight, scuffle. They just kind of rolled around in the grass from their own uh, their own confession, as well as witnesses. It was quite lackluster, but it happened on a dealership property during a hell gig, and how you could get so upset with each other to walk away from a hell gig that you're like running to go act like a buffoon. Um, just shows how much emotions can override us, but I'll never understand it. But yeah, it happens. Um it's just there's humans involved. We're going to argue about stuff. We're going to have different opinions, and everybody's going to be judging everybody else. And at the end of the day, we tend to be judging people for doing their version of something that we're afraid to do. Um, and not always. There are definitely, again, there's always an exception. Anything you can say or do, there's an exception to it, right? There's always outliers. There's always everything else. Um, and at the end of the day, we've got our own lives and we've got our own bills to pay. Um, so there are plenty of people that'll agree to do something for a price that I don't uh, necessarily agree with. There are people on a daily basis building their business off of doing damage I don't agree with doing. But it's their business and it's their life and their body that they're putting through the the act of doing the repair. It's their time they're dedicating to it. So it is what it is. I say I don't understand it. It, I don't get it. It's not for me, but it's also not for me to really be too concerned with what others are doing. I do believe very much in doing what we can to keep the market value up. Um, and even saying that, also, like, I don't know you, I don't know your situation, I don't know your location, I don't know all these different things. And um, if you're in a jam and you got to cut somebody a deal to get the deal, all right, but no judgment. I've been there. And with that said, I believe very much in never actually having to drop that, just learning how to build the value. Um, and learning how to recognize who's your customer, learning how to get in front of the proper customer. Um, there are a lot of things. I don't think we've ever exhausted um, all avenues. When people say, "Oh, I've tried everything," no, you haven't, because if you had, you would have had the outcome you wanted. The fact of the matter is, most people try one, maybe two things, and then they give up, say they tried everything, and then just cave to the path of least resistance. Subconscious mind has 18 prime directives, and one of them is preserving energy, taking the path of least resistance. It's a natural thing to do. That's why when we see someone with a whole lot of discipline and like achieving amazing things, we put them on a pedestal, like the Michael Jordans of the world or bodybuilders or people who've reached massive amounts of success because they overcame so many of our natural programmings to do that. because it's completely unnatural to reach high levels of success. We are naturally programmed to have enough to survive, and that'd be about that. A little bit of thriving in the sense of just keeping the species alive, but it is overcoming some natural programming. That's part of what leaves us in awe about it when we see it. Um, and that's why it seems or can seem so impossible for us because we don't understand that piece of it. Um, yeah, kind of backtrack here to the physical altercations that have happened. Um, it's it's when we reach our there tends to be a physical altercation in something when we feel like we have reached the the end of the line. I'm losing my words here, which is kind of ironic for what I'm about to say. But it's when we feel like we've reached the end of our communication rope, so to speak. We don't have the words. We don't see this conversation going any getting anywhere we want it to go without escalating it somehow, and we run out of um, communication tools, communication options without getting physical. Um, and anyway, talked about a whole lot here that might sound like a whole lot of nothing. So the uh, some of the rules, like what's allowed, what's a good repair, what's not. I will never judge another person's repair. Um, I never have. I have I have judged in a way, but only in the sense of like, how did they do that, or how did they get through that so quick? How can I? I have been very vocal on deals. Um, I've gained a lot of friends and fans this way. Um, had a had a bit of a notorious reputation for being the one okay with saying this publicly. If I get on a deal, so I went on a deal in like 2013, and it was a wholesale deal, and that was my hardest year up to that point. And I kept trying to get on deals, and deals kept falling through. It was not a great storm year. And like I was on my way, I was leaving town, I was pulling out of my neighborhood, and the person I was going to go tag with in Oklahoma called me and he's like, um, dude, turn around. Uh, another storm came through, tornado came through and wiped out the town. And it's like, it didn't just like hit cars again, it demolished the town. And that was, I think, Edmonton, Oklahoma. And that was the only deal I had on the table. I had turned down other deals to go to that deal, and my spot got taken. Um, there was a, uh, there were a lot of deals that year that I was promised that got given away to somebody else. There were games being played. I burned some bridges. And at that time that I was fine with burning, still fine with burning to this day. There was there was a deals I had turned down waiting on a spot with mm, the company had a three-letter acronym or whatever, not acronym, but just three initials. Um, and playing off of some other agencies or company, whatever you want to call it. And I don't want to necessarily say the name of the person because he has since passed. Um, but I'd held on trying to go to a spot for him, for them, for that company. And their areas weren't getting hit. And guys tell me how stressed he was about, um, he's like, I got 25 texts I got to put to work. And he's like, you're on that, you're on the shorter end of that list. I said, but it's just not hitting in our areas and we're not getting the deals, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I'm stressed. And I was like, dude, I got something else. I got it. Look, I've turned down a couple offers, but I just had another offer come in. Like I'll take that. And then it's gonna be a short deal. It's gonna be a 2 week rental car deal. And then I'll come back in rotation. That way it's one less guy you got to stress with over. And actually I can take a tag partner on it. I'll take the dude you had me tagging with anyway if you want. I was like trying to help him out. Uh and he questioned my loyalty. And I saw it as a way to help him out. He spent 20 minutes on the phone telling me, whining about how stressed he was. Um, and so I was legitimately trying to ease some of his stress. That dropped me to the bottom of his list. And that's part of the hell game. Like every time you say no to somebody and say yes to someone else, you are risking losing your spot in their roll call, uh, in their lineup. Um, and I've known that since day one, and it's all right with it. So it happened. I was like, all right, you guys know me, and we're good. And a couple of weeks, next time I get on the deal, I'll work my way back up the list. It's a risk you take. The opportunity came to earn my spot back with them. And I happened to be on another deal later that year, and they wanted me to help them. Company A wanted me to help them by giving them insider intel on the deal I was working so they could come in and take it from the company I was working for. And I was like, no, I'm not taking part of that. I don't care who you are. Um, I'm not doing it. And so then I never got a phone call from them again. But anyway, but they went on to ruin all sorts of markets and overseas and here, and they're no longer around. So, it is what it is. But I worked kept finding myself in 13 with a couple of companies like that. And I got tired of it. And as you heard me on with Shane on the PDR College podcast so many eons ago, um, it's so long ago, it almost feels like that was before the internet. But that was the year I decided I was like, I'm done with these games, and I'm not working with this type of crap and drama anymore. There's enough stress in this game. Don't need to have these games on top of it. And so I stopped, cut them all off, and quit. And I was like, I'm starting over fresh. And the following year turned out to be the greatest financial year I've had ever uh, to date. And I worked a shorter amount of season that year. Now, in the season I worked, put in more hours than I think any human has ever put in a 6 month period. Um, but I was happy at the end of it. For a short-lived period of time, because as uh, as my friend Stephen Doyle once said, when he got into the health side of this, or when he was coming into it, I remember him telling me, he's like, one thing I've noticed over my years, because he was a tech for 8 or 10 years before he came on the trail. I remember him saying, he's like, something I've noticed with hell guys is they'll tell you a story about having their best financial year ever, and the very next year they got a divorce. And it's like, that's not a rule of thumb, but it definitely happens. Um, it definitely happened to happen with me. Um, but uh, um, but back to our programming. So anyway, um, you go on these deals, like you pay attention to uh, talked on one of the last episodes about red flags or just something to look at, not necessarily something to walk away, but it's just something to think about. And because a red flag may be absolutely nothing, it could just be situational in that context. It could be how they do everything, and it could lead to 99 other bad things. There's a book I read called I think it's Instant Alpha or Unplugged Alpha. And there's a lot of red pill, extreme stuff in it that they kind of skate into a little bit, but the core of the book is pretty decent and very short read. And Richard Cooper or something like that is the author of it. And I remember he gives a list of like 20 red flags for uh, women you're dating. And he's like, visible tattoos, and they have kids from another man, and um, they dyed their hair, and he goes through all this stuff, and he says, is like, no single one of these is an absolute deal breaker. However, it is something to pay attention to. And then when you start overlapping it here, and then overlaying it with typical behavior patterns of different stuff, it's like that's how you use red flags, is just like, okay, what else have I seen? And that's kind of how the mind works anyway, is we are a data collecting machine and looking for patterns. Talked about that on here plenty of times, and we'll continue to talk about it because that's what I almost obsess with sometimes, is recognizing patterns in myself as well as others, and situations and companies and life and politics, especially if Keith is listening. I didn't use the X. Almost choked for a minute. Um, and my speech is kind of jacked up because of my face paralysis, but I did not say especially. I said especially. But anyway, um, so when you go on these deals, clarify. Like, um, guy told me one time, he was like, and he's very well known for saying this, but I'm not gonna put him here, because a lot of people don't like it. And like, if it was me that said it, I would put it out there. But since a lot of guys don't like it, I'm not gonna do anything that harms this dude's business or reputation. But a really good tech in the business, really good. Um, he he has two reputations when it comes to tech work, and it's he can do the best stuff you ever seen and be the only guy passing QC in a German light tunnel at the Mercedes plant or wherever you pick your place. Um, and he can also be the dude that paint is flying off the car because he's pushing it once and just rolling and doesn't give a dang. Um, and he told me once, I think back in 2011, I think, he's like, I've got three levels of quality, A, B, and C, and their pay on any deal reflects what level they get. They're choosing it, and he tells everybody when he's working for them. So it's like, you can't hate him, can't be mad at him. Plenty of people have been, um, but I had a lot of respect for that. It's like he's very honest with them up front. He's like, if you pay garbage percentages or you did a low ball deal, if you didn't care enough to get the right numbers, if you don't care enough to pay the tech the right percentage, the right number, whatever, something that's fair, why should I allow you to ruin the business by giving you my best? If you only want to pay for bargain basement dent work, why should I give you German light tunnel quality? Because like, it took a lot of work to build the reputation to be able to get over there. It took a lot to learn how to do work at that quality. Because like, and if you don't see the value in paying for that quality, why should I give it to you? It's like, we know we take a little bit of hit for doing wholesale. But it's made up in the volume and the turnaround time, and no waiting around. There's just ample amount of work, just always waiting. Um, but wholesale game has gotten ridiculous with lowballing, and I've been on uh, one of the things I laugh at every time I hear it, but I can't stand hearing it. It makes me cringe. At the same time, is when you're on a deal, wholesale, body shop, it really doesn't matter anymore, but especially wholesale. And you hear the broker bragging to somebody about like, oh, seven other companies bid on this deal. And I've seen like some of the newer techs, at least newer to the Hell Trail, kind of like, oh yeah, that's man, wow, that's awesome. And they'll say it like it's a bragging thing. Like, oh, seven other companies bid on this and I got it. 99.9999% of the time, it's because you're working for the lowest bidder. That's it. It's like the whole game of oh, military grade aluminum that Ford uses. It's because it's the cheapest garbage there is. Like military picks things on a budget. They still overpay most of the time, but they'll accept the lowest quality because there's other games being played there, and it's same thing with this. Um, and again, there's exceptions. There's outliers. Um, I have seen um, companies not be the lowest bidder and get a wholesale deal and get a body shop um, and bidding against plenty of other companies. Like it does happen, but it takes a really determined, um, communicative sales, like true sales guy. Um, Someone who's very good at the business end, like all ends, right? Like Tiger Woods, when he was the number one golfer, he's never been the number one driver off the golf course. Just had another DUI accident, like a sometime in the last 2 weeks, I guess. A couple of days, I don't know. I don't pay attention to time much, but when he was at the peak, uh, people were running stats on him. And Michael Jordan was very much the same way. Um, Neither one of them were like the best at any one thing. They were just really good at all areas of the game they played. And um, this is the same way. Someone who's absolute best at just getting the most deals will more than likely because of their price. So when people brag about their closing ratio with a customer, with retail customers on like door dings, a lot of times it's because the price is too low, or lower than the market, the rest of us think it should be. Say it that way. But anyway, so it's questioning things, paying attention. And also back to the quality thing. I know guys that are like, no matter what, um, I'm putting my best quality on it because my name's on it. And there's something really honorable about that. Um, Absolutely. And I do agree if I agree to do something at top level quality and I agree to the price, I'm sticking to that, even when I'm halfway through it and realize I screwed up. I should I priced this too low or whatever it is. It's like I'm in it now. I agreed to it, is what it is. I had all the information up front. I made the call. Call was wrong. I'm sticking it out. I'm gonna uh I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability for what I promised up front. Because also, back to the ABC level gentleman, if I go on a deal and I see the prices, it's like, what are we expecting? Um, Back to what I was saying earlier that I never finished. I'm gonna close the loop on it. Um, the thing that I've walked into wholesale deals, fleet deals, um, and heard even certain body shop deals probably or retail deals definitely. Um, maybe not so much retail deals, but anyway, I've walked into rental car deals, fleet deals, wholesale deals, and I had texts like just clap or like cheer when I come in because oh hell, it's about to get good. Um, and Only because I would go in and they would want to show me what the damage looks like and talk numbers and look at all the volume of work. And I'm like, I don't care. I want to see what's passing QC. That's it. I was back to the 2013 story. Man, it was just rough deal after rough deal for me that year. I was on one really good deal right at the beginning, and then it fell apart. It was Atlanta rental car deal. God, I was doing amazing there, and and then after that, it was like every deal I got on was just so tough and lowballed and just all the things. And um, I remember I was tagging somebody in like Colorado, and it was just brutal between the cars and the bugs that were everywhere and the heat and just so many things. It was just wearing guys down. My tag partner would take all day to fix a hood. and I'm fixing, I'm working on the rest of the car, and we were barely making enough to just pay bills at home and pay the expenses to be there. And we kept trying to figure out ways to speed it up. Uh, and we finally we pulled through it and it was okay, but we never hit our minimum number. And we were only there not even 2 weeks probably. And then I got another offer in Minnesota through a friend of mine. And so I felt bad for my tag partner, so I brought him with me, and we hopped in a car and we took off, and went to an even worse deal as far as damage. But after I stayed there, figured it out, and it turned into being one of the best deals I've ever worked, but definitely the best deal of that year. Um, One of the best wholesale deals I've ever worked, though, for sure. Top five probably, and in 20 years, and I've worked a lot of wholesale deals. But on the surface, I saw people pull in front of me that happened to be getting there at the same time as me. And before they got out of the car, they were shaking their head, and then they're like, "No way, I'm not staying here." And they just left, didn't even give it a shot. I was in a spot that I didn't feel like I could gamble like that, so I was like, I gotta figure this out. And although I wasn't sure I was going to be able to as I was looking at it, but the gentleman I took to tag with me, um, he, I'll never forget it. It was one of the most mind-opening experiences I had, definitely that year. And they're trying to show us, man, look at this. Like the techs are bringing us out, like, look how bad these cars are, and blah blah blah. And they're already beat down, and it's like you could tell, oh yeah, these 9 guys that came out here, they're all just waiting to walk. Um, and that's how we got the spot was because dude would have 18 texts at the beginning of the week, and 11 of them would be gone by Thursday. And it was a revolving door because the damage was so nasty. Um, we, and this is not the storm that guys broke down crying on, at least not the ones that no one I saw. Um, I about broke down crying and pulling in the parking lot, but after that, it was good to go. Well, my tag partner looks out, he's like, I don't care. I saw this already. It's damage. I want to see what's passing QC. Show me how low the bar is. He's like, what are the expectations here? And then I'll decide if I'm going to stay or not. And I was just like, ah. That was it. That was the mindset shift. It's like, it doesn't matter what it looks like right now. What's expected on the other end? Because automatically, I had, let's say I'd worked a lot of wholesale deals actually that year. At that point, I had only worked wholesale deals, but I was trained from body shop tech. Um, and I worked a lot of body shop deals. And I came from body shops. So in my head, always like it's got to be the best it can be. It's got to be just looking great. And it's a dealership gig with brand new cars. It's like, so in my head, they've got to be brand new cars when this is done. And um, and he said that, and I was just like, it kind of shattered that glass for me. And as they showed us what was passing QC, they're like, that's it? Like, what are you guys complaining about? Like this, like I won't even do that low quality. That's horrible. So, but these guys were trying so hard to get it to like that new car quality. And it was impossible. It just was, there's no one on the planet. I might eat these words, but since we can't go back 13 years and in a time machine and prove it, I can even say I don't think Bryce Kelly could make this perfect. Um, and not John Vidic. No, like it was nasty. I mean, we're talking about there were a couple hoods that had splits in the metal because the dent had hit so many, or the hailstone had hit so many hailstones had hit in that same spot. Um, there was paint split in the core of the dent, like blown out, not even split. It was, uh, man, it looked like a war zone. Uh, but then we looked at what was being allowed by the dealer to pass QC, and it's like I can't even tell the difference. Um, there's 20 oil can dents on a hood like that techs are sending, and that's passing. And there's paint pulled everywhere, and they're not caring about that. Like they just didn't care. So, all right, well, I'll see what the worst is being accepted. All right. So we went in and I tagged with him for a bit, bounced on another deal for a bit to actually the deal that I was asked to help snake away from the company that had it. I worked it. Ironically, it got snaked away by another by someone else who was supposed to be the foreman of the deal. And I got kicked out anyway, and because uh, I wasn't on his list. And then it came back to the other deal, just a little bit sooner than I expected, because like I say, I was just bouncing away for a short deal real quick to cover for a friend, and yeah. Anyway, and when I came back to that deal, like it was, it turned out to be really good. And then after that, I wrapped that deal up and then flew to France, and my year came out. Um, but I pondered on that for quite a bit. And I even remember before I went to France, a friend was telling me that he's like, over there, body shop work is not the same as doing body shop here. And he gave me an example. He's like, I was doing a push to paint. And he said, "And I was only like 80% done. And they came over and took it and sent it home to the customer." He's like, they were good. They didn't even paint it. And everybody was happy. And the customer knew and they were still happy. And he's like, it boggled my mind, still does to this day. And sure enough, I get over there and I was doing push to paints. And afterwards, they're like, oh, no paint, no paint, and just send it on. And I was just like, what the heck? Um, and those experiences just kind of changed things for me. I couldn't communicate very well to the people in France because literally that was about the only English that guy knew was no paint. And um, I was in this village that no one had ever learned. It was like the one little section of France that no one had even taken English in school. So it was a great experience to learn how to communicate in a different way. But finally, there was a guy there that we were able to create a language. I was able to learn enough French, and he was able to learn. He knew enough English, and we made it happen. But uh, but after that, I came back. Let's say the following year came into my best year ever, and a lot of it came from that understanding that I only know my perception. I don't know the other people's perception. And how do I find that out? I ask. Um, so stop putting my own story on things and started finding out what their story is and then mixing the two and figuring out how to make the deal work. I'd been pretty good up to that point about making a deal feel worth it to me. But after that's where almost every deal became quote unquote a rock star deal for me. Um, and I say it was real simple. If I walked in on a fleet deal or a wholesale deal and guys were complaining about the numbers, just walked in, I was like, I want to see what's expected. I want to see what the bottom line is. And as long as I'm at least 10% better than that, I know I'm not going anywhere. I know I'm here and they're good. And at that, I know what I can make. And does that make sense? And again, be very clear about it. Uh, and that is, that's just how it went. And it went great. I will give a warning. Um, if luckily I learned this really early on. The dude who started my training, I remember him drilling it in. He's like, you got to practice. You're doing everything in the German light tunnel, and you got to work it that way. Um, and he's like, it's too easy to learn how to half-ass it. And it's too easy to fall into that. So like he refused to do less than top notch. He he wasn't because, and he was right. He was like, it's too easy to get in the habit of being lazy. And boy, was he ever right. And And I remember him telling me, he's like, it takes years to get to a level to where you understand how to butcher one up properly. I didn't even understand that in the beginning. But also, he's like, because it's not about butchering a dent. He's like, anybody can mangle one up. It's about just not finishing it fully. And then that way, if you do get caught on QC, you can touch it up real quick. And it didn't make sense in my head in the beginning. Because I was like, well, if I got it right there, why am I not going to just finish it? And of course, at the time, it's like, how do I even get it to where you're calling it unfinished? Like, I'm still aiming, hoping to get it into that point. But a couple years in, and it hit me. I was working um, a small storm at home and doing wholesale door ding route for the guy. Also, I could stay home. My oldest son was I don't know, a year and a half old maybe. And so I was, taking advantage of hanging out. I had seen a lot of changes through pictures instead of experiencing them. So I was taking advantage of trying to be home and just picking up whatever work I could get to mix in with the little bit of hail damage that there was. And uh, I noticed it then. I figured out real quick where I could get a door ding to and it'd be super great to the dealership. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. Then I go to a body shop, do a hell car. And then I remember just one day I was struggling on one and it got way too easy to just reach over and grab my drill. And I know that in a lot of circles, I'm known for being the guy with the drill. But I really don't drill that much. I used to drill without ever thinking about it. I wouldn't even ask if we could. I was like, if they didn't tell me I can't, then all right. But that's a little exaggeration, but that was kind of my mentality. I had no problems with drilling whatsoever for the first quite a few years, actually. Um, and but yeah, I noticed on a body shop car, I went to grab a drill real quick, and I was like, "Whoa, hold up, wait, I can't do that." And then it turned out the guy I was actually working the shop for. He said, "No, all my shops have already agreed." He's like, "We drill. We need to do it. It's going to make it faster and better. We drill." Um, and I gave into that for quite a long time. But again, I'd remember what the guy who taught me uh, would say. He's like, don't get used to things like drilling or shortcut a dent. He's like, because then when you get into the deals where you can't do that, you're gonna be limited on what you can do. And again, I didn't fully understand it in the beginning because I was like, well, then I just get to and fix it. But it's not that easy when you don't know how to overcome those obstacles and challenges. You're stuck when the pressure's on, and that's when you can start kind of stressing out, and that's when things can go wrong. Murphy's Law kick in. You're gonna pull some paint. You're gonna bust paint. You're gonna push too hard or force something a little too much, and you know break a glass or something. Um, so just be aware of that. If you find yourself going on these deals that are like low balled and but they're okay with the low ball level of quality and you're doing that, no shame. Like I say, I don't judge the outcome of anybody's work because I wasn't there. I don't know the deal. I don't know the agreements. I don't know the factors of what was there. But just know that you're skating on some thin ice that is very easy to fall into a pool that is hard to dig your way out of. It might be harder to um, learn the right way, fall into that path of doing things the easy shortcut way, and then dig yourself back out to doing quality. It might be harder to do that route than it is to just learn it right from the get-go and do it. You know, I use air quotes here. The right way. I'll say top quality way. Um, so yeah, and same thing with pricing. If you just go in, if you win things on price, whether it's a wholesale deal, retail customer, whatever it is, if you're winning it on price, there's no customer loyalty there because they might come back to you 10 times. You might have the wholesale account for 2 years. um, 6 hailstorms in a row, or if you're a door ding guy for years. But the instant someone else comes in and offers lower price than you, you're out. Um, it's just like the woman is with a man because of his financial status. Um, if you got her that way, someone else can get her that way too. Um, and it tends to happen after you've already invested a whole lot of all your resources into that. Um, so yeah, having that, setting those boundaries up for yourself around that guy that when the storm was local and I was taking the storm work from him and then taking some wholesale work, route work to stay in town and stay busy through the winter and all of that. I remember I got one of the best wholesale accounts he had at the time, not the best by far, but one of the best ones. I landed it through a contact at one of his other accounts, and like I gave it to him, told him when it was happening. Um, but I ended up losing it, and I lost it over price. He tried to help me win it back, and it didn't happen. And then they came back, uh, and we dropped the price a little bit, and we got it. Like literally a couple of bucks a panel. It was not much, not nearly what they wanted, but he agreed to it, and I kind of agreed to it because I was like a year and a half in, um, and I couldn't afford not to. And I would have probably agreed to it sooner, honestly, at the time. But even though I landed the account, I saw it as his account, and I was like, "Nah, I know where his pricing standard is, and no, we're getting it or not, you know." And uh, sure enough, we had that account back for a couple of weeks, and then lost it again because the guy that wasn't doing the work right and that they gave it to before and took it from me, they gave it right back to him because he lowered his price another $5 a panel, and they wanted us to compete. And I was like, I already see a pattern. And then we refused. Sure enough, he got booted out of there. They brought us back, and we didn't drop our price. But then 3 or 4 weeks later, here he is again, and he was doing. He had teamed up with an interior company, and they were now doing dents for like $15 a car, sometimes $10 a car, the whole car. Um, and uh, we were doing it was like 45 for the first panel at that time. And capping a car like 95, $100, something like that. And yeah. And then he went around town, just started selling, doing whole cars for 10, 15, $20, taking almost every wholesale account in town. And there was one other person who was competing with him on that. And a friend of mine actually, buddy of mine, and not really friend, but buddy, who I've helped him out with a couple of his accounts over the years. And not in the last five, but um, just learned he held on to several accounts for like 15 years, 20 years. And his biggest ones that he held on to that long, he lost them all in the last 2 years. Um, Literally like 70% of his route was gone because he signed a contract with Dent Wizard. Because now Dent Wizard is doing a package deal that is, I don't understand how there's any profit shown at the end of this, but it's all a game to it's a lead magnet, so to speak, as they say in the digital marketing world and personal development world. Um, but but yeah, so if you get in whatever an account lets you get away with, they're gonna let somebody else get away with it. And as soon as somebody can make it sound like they packaged it better than you did, you're out. So there's better ways to learn it for long haul of the business. I say you find yourself in a financial rut or whatever, in a bad spot, like life can happen. Man, you can do all the things right. You can save all the money. You can price things right all the time. And Dude, one fell swoop from life, one swift kick in the face can cause you to lose just about everything. I've been there twice since I've been in this business. Um, and doing all the things right, and just somebody else makes a move, takes it, or causes it to be taken. It can go so quick. Like unless you're whatever the dude is that on Amazon, Jeff something Bezos. Um, he lost half his fortune and he's still one of the wealthiest men on the planet. It's like till you get to that level, it's like when we're down here and our Feasley incomes, yeah, we can get wiped out. If it can happen to doctors, scientists, politicians, all them, it can happen to us. So, I don't judge anybody for that. I've been there myself, blindsided by something. Um, and you get no spots. You got to dig back out the quickest, easiest path could be to just make up with your speed and accept lower prices, whatever, to get the deal. If you do that on a contextual basis, one-on-one, all right. But um, man, aim to not do it at a level that's going to ruin the industry because then um, you're just going to have to keep doing it. Again, if you set that standard and it gets too easy for you to just go to price to get the deal, challenge yourself to build it off of integrity in pricing, integrity in quality, all of that. Um, have the shortcut in your pocket, the shortcut method of doing things. Have that as an escape hatch, as a fail safe, as a parachute cord in your back pocket thing. Um, but not the foundation that you build things off of. Um, yeah, it can lead to what seems like a quick shortcut to some success, but I'm telling you, it gets blown away really quick, like the little poofy flower in a breeze, whatever that thing is that everybody hates in the yard. I think it's a dandelion. Um, but um, yeah, just watch out for that. How you do anything is how you do everything. And that's the thing that if you start doing the shortcuts in something like business, it starts showing up in other places. And then things can fall apart real quick. They can't be rebuilt. Um, and then so it kind of brings to like the psychology of the quote. It's uh it's not a math problem, and it's just frame control. You know, um uh we end up taking the low ball route, the shortcut method, because there's something in us that we don't believe we can get it otherwise. Um, and it's just something to recognize, something to work on, something to dig on. Worked with a whole lot of clients around all sorts of areas of business and relationship success and so much, no matter what's going on outside. So much boils down to some belief of some kind of vibe of not believing we're worth it, worth more, worth better, worth showing up better, worth more discipline, something, some kind of thing, where we just don't believe we can get it otherwise without the shortcut. Um, uh, it's again, no hate, no judgment. Been there, done that. Um, especially it's natural to take the path of least resistance, but for the long haul, it's not the way to do it. Um, just because it's natural in human nature to take the path of least resistance. Remember, what's designed as our human nature was not designed for the world we live in. Business didn't exist. Back in the caveman days, we just had to find shelter, food, and procreate. Um, Now we're trying to create things like legacy, business, longevity, take care of families, take care of bills, take care of mortgage payments that We're not a thing. Um, and so to be successful in the modern day world takes a lot more discipline. It took discipline back then to survive. Like we had to tough it out. That's why only the strong say I'll survive, right? That's where that came from. Because way back then we were up against nature, predators, you know, all this stuff. Uh, Now life's gotten a lot more cushion in other ways, and where the hard comes from is because it's completely unnatural and we don't understand what's going on. We don't know what to do. We don't know what we're overcoming. So all of our fears back in the day, back in caveman days, made sense because we needed to know if the bush moved because of wind or because of a predator. Um, Now we don't have those same concerns, but we got that same energy looking for something. So again, if we were hunting a creature for food, we wanted to take the shortcut path to get there because we needed it, right? It led to the success of us having a meal um, and being able to survive another couple of days until we found another meal. Now we have that same fear and that same desire to shortcut to get the meal, but there's no meal, there's no predator to overcome. Um, we're just out here floating around. So the things that we're giving into the temptation of the shortcut, they don't truly exist, not to the level of the energy and attention we're giving it and the excuses. So anyway, hopefully that's somewhere in there spoke to everyone in some way or another. I'm gonna drop it right there because I can go on this soapbox for way longer. Um, and the rabbit hole gets deep on on all this, especially when we start talking about the human behavior programming underneath it all. So anyway, as always, thank you guys so much for listening. And I think next episode we got some Q&A stuff to do. So I think that's going to be on my sheet here, but I think that's the next week coming up. So can't wait. Guys, have a great one. Those of you on the storm trail already, I hope you're killing it.